So, hello and welcome to the second session of our Magic of Colour teleclass series. Welcome to all of you who are joining me for this session, and I hope you're going to enjoy a deepening of your journey through colour. I'm Julie Ompleby, your colour therapist, guiding you through some of the teachings and the workshops in this session is going to take probably just over an hour. So in the first class that we connected together, we looked at how colors were, let me just get the slide up for you. So we had a look at the color mandala and we had a look at how colors are actually made up. So we started with the primary colors of red, of yellow, blue, and red, and then we looked at how combinations of those primaries give us the secondary colors, the orange, the green, the violet, and looked at how the secondary colors combined again with primaries or with each other start giving us the tertiary or the quaternary colors. So you start developing shades and tints of various colors, and also the understanding of how pastel colors or paler colors have light added to them, so therefore they intensify, actually present or being manifest through the expression of that particular color frequency. So red that has light added to it gives us pink. And pink is an intensification of the issues of red. So take one of the key issues of red being stored up anger. Pink becomes a deepening of that, whereby the anger within oneself is actually ignored to the point where whatever love can be made manifest becomes a sacrificial love. It's love that is love of self that is sacrificed on the altar of love for others. Because one of the issues in pink is actually around self-sacrifice. And sacrifice is actually a red theme. So that's just one little example of how the adding of light and the intensification of the colors can actually be seen through the paler manifestations of those particular color frequencies. So it's a different tint, if you like, of the color. One of the other things that we began looking at was this concept of overactive and underactive chakras. And that is in your notebooks on pages 9 through to 12. Inclusive gives you a summary of what each of the chakras in its overactive or underactive state may look like. And from the perspective of color, this would give us some idea from an energetic perspective of what color may be needed to support that individual in being able to re-establish another level of wholeness and of balance, because each of the imbalanced chakra states, whether it is overactive or underactive, represents one of the challenging or represents challenging aspects of the particular color. So immediately, say for instance you are doing a color reading and somebody chooses red in a challenging position, you're going to know straight away that they are out of balance in the root chakra, and through the process of questioning you can then establish whether that chakra is overactive or underactive and what color may be needed and how the colors may be used in order to support bringing balance back to the physical body. So color does impact us at all levels. It impacts us at the subtle inner level. It impacts us through the chakras, which are energetic portals for interacting with our physical and subtle energy world. But through those, we begin to experience the frequencies of color in whatever state or form it may be in our physical body. And color also has a huge impact on us at an emotional level, which we see through the language of color and the way that our emotions are described and colored by the frequencies of color itself. Orange with joy, red with anger, green with envy, yellow, the yellow of happiness, of sunshine, the blues, depression, and that sort of thing. So we do see how our language and our emotions have actually become colored with color itself. So we see that the impact actually does take place at many different levels. So one of the little hints that I actually want to give you before we go on to taking a look at how we can intuitively connect with color is a way of measuring or being able to discern the activities of the chakras and whether the chakras are overactive or underactive. So just by establishing what the chakras are doing, you can then assist in remediating that through the application of color. So there are a couple of ways that you can do this, and this isn't in your notes, so you may want to make a couple of extra notes on this. Is you can use either dowsing rods or you can use a pendulum if you are skilled in the use of a pendulum. And if you have a client or you have somebody with you, what you would first need to do is, before you've got a client there, of course, is you would first need to establish the signals for your own pendulum. And for many people, the way that those signals manifest are that your pendulum would actually do one thing for a yes, it would do another thing for a no answer. So your pendulum may move counterclockwise for yes, and it may move clockwise for no, or it could move side to side for one of the signals and then move clockwise for another one. But each person has their own unique signal with a pendulum that will give you some idea of what the answer would actually be, for want of a better description. So you would take a pendulum and you hold it very, very loosely in your one hand, and I usually hold it over the palm of my other hand, and then I would just actually ask the question, show me what the signal is for yes. Pendulum will move one way or the other for yes. Show me what it is for no. And then I would repeat those questions a number of times until I'm sure that I've actually got signal correct, because the pendulum itself is really just an external extension or manifestation of your own subtle body system. Is that when you become highly sensitive and highly tuned to the information, and the information flow through your subtle energy bodies, is that you can basically tune in yourself, and you would actually have an idea. Your body would tell you whether something's a yes or a no or whatever it might be. So in the meantime, things like pendulums and dowsing rods are really just used as an extension of our nervous system to help to clarify the information. So once you've got your signals with the pendulum, which is relatively straightforward, and you've got a person that's actually sitting there with you, what you would do is you would say hold the pendulum over the root chakra, and you would ask the question, is the root chakra overactive, and see what the signal is, and that may be a yes or a no. And in order to confirm that, you can then ask the question, is the root chakra underactive, and look for a yes or a no. And you should get the opposite answer, or is the root chakra balanced, because you may find that at any one moment in time you may have 2 or 3 chakras out of balance one way or another, and then you would have 1 or 2 of them that are actually okay and pretty much in balance. It depends on the issues that the individual is working with. So you can go through each of the chakras and you can develop a profile for the individual of what is underactive, what is overactive, and then what the palette of colors are that would support that individual energetically in being able to restore balance to their subtle energy system. So they may need a combination of colors. Let's say they need red to stimulate the root chakra, but they also need some green to help to open up and balance the heart. And you would actually find anyway that if we go back to the color mandala, that red and green are actually complements of each other anyway. So if you actually find that one of the golden rules is that never use the color red at night because it is too stimulating. Um, so there, don't use red in your bedding or too much red in your bedroom because it can be highly stimulating and energizing as a color. It could really stimulate the root chakra, and the root chakra is really about physical activity in the world and physical expression in the world. So you're not going to relax properly if you've got too much red in your environment while you're literally trying to rest. So be very, very cautious about how you work with these colors, especially in your bedroom. Same goes for magenta. That contains a lot of red, so one would need to be very careful about using the deep colors such as magenta at night as well. So that's how you can actually use a pendulum to determine the state of the chakras, and then how color can actually be used to help to rebalance or bring balance back to the chakras, hence the physical, emotional bodies, and so on and so forth. You can also use dowsing rods in very much the same way. So you could get a person to stand in front of you, and you can actually stand probably a good 8 feet away from them, and you would hold the dowsing rods very, very loosely in your hands, pointed at the person, and you would ask the question, show me the activity of the root chakra, or is the root chakra overactive or underactive once you've got your signals for the dowsing rods. And you may find that the dowsing rods, for instance, what I find is that they swing open if the root chakra is overactive. So the influx of energy as I'm walking towards that person forces the dowsing rods apart. And if the root chakra is closed, I'm able to get much, much closer into their energy field, and then the points of the dowsing rods cross over each other in front. So that indicates to me that the chakra is closed. So I have done this both ways. I've worked with both of them, and for me, if I've got a client there that I'm working with, it's a really nice visual representation for the client to be able to use dowsing rods as a determination of what is actually happening with the chakra, so the client can see at the same time what is actually happening with the dowsing rods. So grab a friend, get a little bit of practice in, and just see how you go with it. And you can also use a process of questioning to determine what the issues may be with that person, to give you some idea of what the status of the chakras may be. And the questioning we're going to go a little bit more in depth with, because that really comes into play when we're doing a color reading, for instance. So I'm going to leave that with you to go through pages 9 through to 12 in your workbooks, so that you can establish and really get a feel for yourself of how the energies may manifest themselves if the chakras are out of balance, overactive, or underactive. Hillary's just asked a question and said, can we do this on ourselves in terms of determining the balance of the chakras? Yes, you absolutely can. The pendulum is a great one for doing that. So you can actually use a pendulum and ask the question of the pendulum for each one of your chakras and do a profile for yourself. And what I've found, and I've done this with the diamond work, is that you can actually use the dowsing rods as well, because they will respond. Again, it's an extension of your subtle energy system, of your nervous system. So they will show you, and they will respond to that questioning, because your inner self already knows what's going on with your energy system. And so often it's just that we haven't developed the sensitivity of our senses to be able to access the answers within ourselves. So you would just, what I do with the dowsing rods, for instance, with the diamond work, is I just say, okay, hold them in front of me, and I say, for instance, show me what the extent is of my diamond field is at the moment, and I would walk forward with the dowsing rods, and at the point that I get to the boundary of my energy field, they will actually cross over. So I've already preset that with the question. So the minute I get to that boundary, the dowsing rods show me that. And it's exactly the same, because I've done tests with this with a friend as well, where they have then come in and measured that boundary from the opposite perspective, and it's been exactly the same. So I would invite you to play with it. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to, sort of play and begin to sense energy, because what you will actually find as you play with it, you will become more sensitive to the energies. And you go, oh, actually, I knew that. I knew that my root chakra was actually a bit enclosed and not fully open, or fully flowing from that particular area. Or I'm already feeling that my heart center is just too wide open, because I'm ultra, ultra sensitive to anything that anybody else may be feeling. Or for instance, the solar plexus, we generally would feel when there's an imbalance in the solar plexus, because we begin to feel a tightness in that area whenever there is self-doubt, or whenever someone criticizes us. If we don't have a strong, healthy solar plexus, we will feel that straight away. So we will know that yellow is one of the colors that we actually need to support strengthening of that, and violet to help to calm down any overactivity. If you're ever in any doubt and you're not sure whether it's overactive or underactive, what color to use, the golden rule would be use the color of the chakra together with its complement. So you would use, say, for instance, with red, use red and green. If you're working with orange, you can use orange together with blue or indigo. So if you're not sure whether this chakra is out of balance, use orange and then use blue. And you could perhaps say use orange in the morning, because again, orange is stimulating, and use blue at process. You are ensuring that that chakra is actually fed with both of the colors that would assist in restoring balance to that area. And you're working on the complementary higher chakras at the same time. So if in any doubt, use the color of the chakra plus one of its complementary colors. So I hope that that actually makes sense for you, that it's a little bit more insight in terms of you working with color for yourself as well as with others. There's loads and loads of wonderful little practical tools and ways in which we can work with this. Now, excuse me for a moment. I'm just going to adjust these headphones because they're kind of making a bit of a noise. Let's hope that they will stay the way that they are. Okay, so that's sort of a quick review that takes us into the next section, which is now beginning to connect with our natural intuitive language and the intuitive way in which we perceive the energy frequencies of color, because we are all able to. And it's often very surprising when I do this in live workshops. Um, Many people are surprised by the languaging, the words, the senses, the emotions that they use to connect with, or a particular color, or that color is actually communicating to them, when they spend the time to stop and focus on it. So very, very often we don't take the time out of our busy lives to stop and place a little bit of attention on understanding what may be going on at the subtle energy level, or beyond the level of our natural, normal, sort of 5-level senses. And the one thing I actually want to say too is that it's not necessarily our eyes that see the color. We tend to think it is. It's our brain that sees. It's our brain that decodes frequencies, that decodes the information which comes in through our optic nerves and is transmitted through to the optical center in the brain and to various other centers. So we don't just see color. Those of us that actually have vision and have sight can see something and we will perceive it as orange or red or green or whatever it might be. But those who can't physically see can still sense color because the nervous system through the skin and through the nerve endings that end at the surface of the skin can still perceive the subtle energy frequencies that are being emitted by various color items. And I think it is very, very relevant here because Vicky Wall, for instance, who founded the amazing Aurosoma System, which is where I really started with my own color journey, she was blind. She developed all of those jewel-like colors and colored bottles when she was blind. So she couldn't see what she was developing. And when you take a look at those bottles, there is absolutely no doubt in terms of the understanding that goes along with those colors and with those bottles that she knew exactly what those energy frequencies were. So another exercise that you actually may like to try is to take two items from opposite side of the spectrum. Take an item that is red and take an item that is blue, and close your eyes and ask somebody to give you a colored item you can hold over your hands, then take it away and give you the other item. And notice for yourself what the sensations of the particular frequencies are as you hold that colored item between your hands. Because more than likely what you will find is that with the um, feel a coolness. And with the warm or electric colors that sit on this side of the spectrum, you will actually feel a warmth being emitted. So you can do this with other people, and you can also do this as a little test for yourselves. Uh, um, that yeah, take scarves or just strips of material and one by one, put them between the palms of your hands. Just hold your hand lightly over them and sit with the frequency of that color. I'll just go through this again very briefly because I'm not sure at what point the sound disappeared. But just hold the different colors, palms of your hands, and experience for yourself the different frequencies or the different sensations that go along with each color with your eyes closed, because your body senses that energy. So it's worthwhile remembering that. So even somebody who is colorblind, for instance, who says, well, I actually can't tell the difference in certain colors, get them to sit with their eyes closed and do this exercise with them, because they will then sense the different qualities of the emanations with their eyes closed through their body, because that information is then going in through their nervous system. So they will sense the heat or the cold or whatever it may be, or the intuitive connection with that color. So it's another way to sort of play with it to clarify the fact that color is not just a light emanation. It's not something you see with your eyes. It is an energetic frequency, the signal of which is actually perceived by your nervous system. Okay, so it does impact, and that is why when you wear a red jersey or you wear brown trousers or grey trousers, there is an impact as a consequence of wearing that color, because your nervous system is actually perceiving the emanation from that particular item of color. So you are getting the benefit even when you wear clothing of a particular color, and there is information there for you. So I hope that that makes a little bit of sense. Certainly you can establish what somebody may be experiencing just by asking them a simple question like, what is your favorite color? What color do you wear or like to have around you most of the time? And it will give you huge insights into what is happening with their energy system just through that one simple question. So no, there was a question coming in into the chat room there. Okay, that's great. So you understand that. Now, going on to the next section, without further ado, so we're going to start accessing your own intuitive connections with each of the colors. Sorry, I'm just putting a message in here. Um, okay, so right, on each of these slides, with the colors that we're going to start working with, is I've got an image for you of Penny's oils of transformation. Remember I said in the beginning that this particular body of work is based on Penny Duplessis' Magic of Color, and she actually creates these beautiful colored oils called the oils of transformation, and they come in these 50 ml size bottles with these lovely sort of rounded, beautifully feminine feel, and these small 13 ml bottles, and these are oils that you can apply directly on your body. But so what I would like you to do, and be ready to sort of type your little keywords into the chat room, and if you've got, keep a piece of paper handy so that you can jot down these words on a piece of paper and your connection. So in front of the screen now, just sit quietly, and I'd like you to close your eyes for a moment. So close your eyes for a moment and just take a deep breath in and out. And just allow your breathing to take you into a quiet, relaxed space of being. Let the thoughts and any analysis just float from your mind. Let those thoughts be released on your breath as you calm your mind. And as your mind calms, your subtle energy senses awaken. As you give the intention to be able to connect with, to hear, to feel, to sense, to know whatever information is being released or communicated to you from your subtle energy bodies. And ask for your higher self to be present, that you may know the inherent connection and understanding that you have of the magical world of color and light. And then when you are ready, take a deep breath in and open your eyes and gaze upon the colors on the screen, whether the shape or the bottles, and write down the key words that come to you, that arise from within you, that you immediately connect with around this color, that those colors communicate to you. Okay. So, for those of you who are connected in live, I don't know if you'd like to sort of share some of those keywords in the chat room, any emotions that came through with those colors or with that color. And when we do this exercise, we may actually connect with either the challenges, we may have challenging words, we may have positive or uplifting experiences. It really depends on our own energetic state and what that color means for us in this moment. So we've got with that one symbol, warning, absolutely, and that is red for danger. So now we know why red is often used in signs that do give us a warning of something. Strong and strength, yes, absolutely. Blood and intense, yeah, blood, the life force, the uh, if you like, take a look at, we go back to this particular one in the root chakra, and we know that the blood cells are actually produced in the bone marrow here in this part of the body. So it is actually the originating point of the life force, which then flows throughout and distributes that animating force throughout our body. So you can imagine now that if that chakra is blocked, that there is a reduction in the amount of animating force or power that is being distributed. So an individual who is experiencing a blockage or a challenge in this area would very, very likely be experiencing powerlessness or feeling stuck. So they don't have the energy, absolute fatigue, don't have the energy to move. It is also in its uplifted positive expression, this particular color brings passion and excitement and energy for doing, for action. It is, uh, let's see, urgency is another word that usually actually goes with it. Making things work. It's like perseverance. So you quite likely would find, for instance, that um, somebody who is underactive in this particular area, not enough red, has a problem finishing things. So can't actually see things through to the end. No perseverance. It's stop, start. Because this is actually a stop warning signal as well as a very powerful yay, time to really put action into being and to go with this, the urgency of go. While we associate green with go, red is also, there's an urgency action that actually goes along with this. Hi Rose, glad you could actually join us. Just started the intuitive connections with the colors. So when you are doing a reading with somebody, and what I will do is you could either do a reading with the bottles themselves and get somebody to select their colors from the bottles, or you could actually create, and I can do these plain round discs, send them to you on a template that you can then cut out, and you can turn them all face down and just get somebody to choose colors from these round card discs and see what colors they actually choose. You can do color readings with people in a number of ways. But if somebody turns over one of these in a certain position in their reading, you will have an intuitive connection straight away with what that is saying to you, or how you can then phrase your questions to the individual in order to uncover what may be going on. Sometimes as well, when you're doing a color reading, you're starting to uncover things that have been buried in the unconscious that the person is not consciously aware of. But what I want to guide you to is page 19 in your workbook, because on page 19 There is what Penny calls the red path. Actually gives you a leading question which you could associate with this color choice from somebody or by somebody. And the leading question would be, tell me about your financial state. Do you have difficulty making ends meet? And you can then look at some of the challenging aspects of this particular color. And have you always found it easy to manifest what you need? So you can find out where they sit in that spectrum, because it may be that they've always found it relatively easy, but just at this moment in time, they are starting to experience challenges in their life, or they feel like they need to change something or need to move in a certain direction, but they feel stuck. They just feel as if they don't have the energy to do it, for instance. So on page 19, there are the positive attributes, and there is a summary of the challenges at each level, be they physical, emotional, future potential, physical, emotional, or spiritual. So, have you guys got the page open in your workbook that you can actually have a look at the color red on that score? Where's this typing? Um, so then take a look at that. That's okay. Don't worry if you haven't got it in front of you. You will be able to go over this and just refer to it. So while we are doing the intuitive connection here with the online work, you can then go back and follow the actual work that's written down in the book. But what's important for me during this is that you get to experience your own connection with color, so that you have a confidence. You have a level of knowing of how what's the word? You have a level of knowing of that you actually do know from deep within yourself, that that connection is there, and you have the confidence to be able to express that. So the kind of issues that you might find with this, you can question the person about, are whether they sort of get their teeth into something and then can't let it go, whether they get obsessed about things, whether they have poor physical circulation, general lack of energy, imbalances of the legs and the feet. So we go back to some of the chakra insights that we were talking about last week. Sexual dysfunction is one of them. I would be a little bit sensitive about discussing sexual issues with your client, because there are many people who do feel that that is a private issue. But that is one of the things that, if the information is offered to you, then feel confident in actually pursuing and knowing that a sexual dysfunctional manifestation would be associated with an imbalance of this color and a need for this color. Blood pressure, high or low, lack of iron, sciatica blockages in the bones, emotional issues such as anger, frustration, where somebody is reactive because of challenges, whether they feel stuck, impulsive, may come across as abrupt, craving excitement. Again, somebody who craves constant excitement, who craves that adrenaline rush, sometimes to the point where they literally, it does appear that they almost have a death wish. You take a look again at the color red is associated with the animating force for the body. So anybody who has a death wish has an imbalance in this area, because they're constantly challenging the permanence and the efficacy of that life-affirming, life-animating force through this color. So there are huge topics and subjects that a person may be experiencing around this, and at any one time they may only be experiencing one or two or three of those particular aspects. But there on page 19 you have a lovely breakdown around this particular color of how you can then approach it and broach it with somebody that you may be working with. We're only going to get into the actual structuring of the reading, and you're going to get to do some color readings in the fifth session. So from session 5, we will actually be doing some readings themselves. May do a primary reading in session 4. But for the most part, so there you have red. Are you guys okay with that for the moment? We're going to one by one actually go through these colors so that you really get to experience them within yourselves. That's fine. So let's have a look at the next color. Now this color is actually coral. It looks a little bit sandy. It's very difficult to get the right tones and shades of the color coral, because coral is actually a combination of pink and orange. So depending on how it's actually made up, sometimes depending on the angle you look at it and the way that the light, sometimes it looks more pink, sometimes it looks more orange, but then you get the blend which makes it almost look like a pinkish sand. So this is coral. So what I would like you to do again is to, in front of the screen, just close your eyes for a moment and just allow your breathing to slow down what's going on in your mind, because you're not going to figure this out. You're going to sense and feel into it. So just breathe in and out. And just allow your mind to rest. And again, reaffirm that your higher self communicates and works with you so that you can enhance your awareness of your innate connection with the frequencies of color. And when you are ready, open your eyes. And on your sheet of paper, quickly jot down words, feelings, and sensations that you connect with as you gaze upon this color. So if you'd like to share in the chat room some of the key connections. Lovely, Rose, the need for love, acceptance, the need for fun and laughter. Good one. See how much you already know. It's a really interesting process. Sand, grace, comfort, and joy. Yeah, what does sand feel like anyway? I mean, that's what I always see when I look at this color here. I always think of the sand. And to me, sand is sunshine. It's comforting. It moves and it molds and it changes and it morphs and it's soft and graceful. So wonderful, wonderful words, sand, grace, comfort, and joy, or the need for that. Absolutely. Now, if you take a look, I will point you in your workbook to where the coral information is, and that's on page 37 in your workbook. So I'm not going to do this in any order. I'm going to move around these so that you're not able to preempt where we're going to go next. So if you actually have a look on page 37, if you haven't got your book, don't worry about it. The key question that you would need to explore, and this is interesting bearing in mind what you've written, is are you always there to support and help everybody else, but you don't make time for yourself? And this is where you've got the need for love, acceptance, fun, and laughter. okay, or joy, or comfort, because somebody who is working within the realms of imbalances around this color is somebody who tends to give an incredible amount of themselves to others, who seems to almost have an endless supply of love and compassion for others. But on the challenging side, they can find themselves at the bottom of the queue when it comes to A, giving love back to themselves, B, being able to receive it, um, C, yeah, being open to receiving, and feeling accepted. And as a consequence, the challenges with somebody who would go for this color would be huge, because this person is then open to manipulation by others by very nature of the generous and giving nature of their being. So, your lovely comment there in the chat room, how revealing. Working with color is just absolutely fascinatingly revealing. So somebody who would choose coral in a challenging position. Now, don't worry too much about this. It's just when we do the color readings, there are certain positions in which the colors are chosen, which would show you immediately that this is a challenge that somebody is dealing with. Other positions will show you that that person is actually manifesting or working with the harmony or the gift of that color. So I'm talking at the moment about somebody who's actually chosen this as a challenge. Straight away, you're going to find that that person actually more than likely has issues with being manipulated. Very, very often this can manifest through forms of abuse in one way, shape, or form. It can be physical, it can be mental, it can be emotional. So in other words, it can be sexual abuse, but it can also be mental and physical. Abuse is a very, very difficult word, I think, for most people to accept. So if you were communicating with other people and working or exploring this color with them, I would rather use the word manipulation rather than the word abuse. So you could ask the individual whether they find that they tend to very often be manipulated or find themselves on the receiving end of manipulation by others. Okay, so manipulation is probably an easier word to get them into. So this color is somebody who operates with the gifts of this color is very comforting. It's kind of like a real mother figure. You know, and that's why in certain color systems, Mother Mary is associated both with the colors blue, but also with the color coral pink, because it is a very nurturing, very supportive color. So this, in fact, is a wonderful color, Rose, to go back to the first session that we did for you to paint one of your delivery rooms, because how wonderful for both the mother who is actually giving birth and the baby that's being born to be born into an environment which is comforting, nurturing, supportive, loving, warm. So it's a beautiful, beautiful energy for them to be born into. So coral is actually a wonderful, wonderful color. It's unconditional. Oh wow! Sorry for those that are tuning in later. Rosa's just said she was late tonight because triplets were born, 2 girls and a boy. How beautiful! Oh, isn't that amazing? I do hope mother and children are well. So yeah, there you go. There's a wonderful, wonderful color that you can actually use for that. So if somebody is experiencing challenges and being manipulated, they're going to need support in terms of building up their inner sense of acceptance. So one of the challenges that you find here is that the person very often is not able to accept themselves. They're very, very accepting of others, so they're very accepting of what may be done unto them, but they tend to be very to find it very, very difficult to accept themselves at all levels of being. They tend to have a very low sense of self-worth, which is why they give, give, give all the time, because their sense of value and worth actually comes from that giving to others. So huge problems with receiving. It can also manifest as hormonal imbalances physically in the body. So somebody with challenges in coral might likely be struggling with that. Feelings of not being good enough. Always trying so hard that you get emotionally and physically exhausted. So you are constantly, because you cannot receive, because you're not able to give back to yourself, you can actually end up feeling completely physically exhausted, that your resources run low. And it's really, really important for that person, and a lack of boundaries, I should say as well, that's another thing, an inability to put those boundaries down. So one of the things that individuals who are out of balance with this color need to learn is to be able to put up boundaries, to set aside time and space for themselves to recharge their batteries. Think about this too. I just want to point something out to you, is that we've got the red of the energy. So we've got the very root chakra issues manifest intensely through the coral. So you've got the red, which is now become pink through the addition of light. You add to that the orange, which is the hormonal system, ways in which we relate to other people, and through the coral you then experience imbalances in hormones, depletions of energy, real exhaustion through constantly giving. So you can always go back to the color wheel as well, and what that is, and look at what is on the other side of coral. Now this is where it's also very, very interesting. Um, is turquoise, which is on the opposite side there to coral. Turquoise is about, in its challenging aspect, it's putting up walls to self from extreme sensitivity. So you may find that somebody who is working with coral, for instance, who has a challenge there, also has a challenge with turquoise. And what they need to do is to be able to, putting up the walls around the heart is one way that that individual thinks that they are putting up boundaries, but they're not. What they're doing is preventing themselves from fully accessing everything about who they are and the true love that they have at the core of their being. So it's to be able to let down the barriers around the heart to allow that sensitivity to be felt for the self, and not just for other people. And from that space, one can then go on, because turquoise actually contains some yellow, to building a sense of self-worth and putting up appropriate boundaries. So there are huge, huge lessons that start being uncovered on the color journey. So it is a journey that we take through these colors. As you rightly say, Rose, that's amazing. Yeah, because one of the beauties of doing therapy work, you often find that therapists do struggle with this, because the tendency is inherently to give too much as part of an inherent aspect of their being. So you guys okay with that one? Yep. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. Um, Next color. Ooh, love this one. So here we've got orange. So have your piece of paper in front of you. Close your eyes for a moment. Just let go of all of that information, because it's all in your book. You can refer back to it. And to let go on your breath as you breathe in and out. And you connect again immediately to the essence and the energies and the frequencies of these beautiful colors. And then when you're ready, open your eyes and allow yourself to simply absorb and respond to the colors on the screen. and make your notes. Okay, so we've got here warmth, joy, expansion energy. Yes, and openness. It is. It's sort of allowing yourself to be open, to receive, to enjoy, be in joy. There's something beautifully uplifting about the color orange. You know, it so surprised me. Lovely words here. Rich, juicy. Yes. Yeah. Now you can understand why, sort of, once I'd done some work with the turquoise and I went back and I saw the orange, I wanted to drink it. It really was. You know, it is that feeling, that juiciness of the color orange. So it's a love for life. You know, this sort of real engagement with life. So we've got enlivening is a wonderful word there, Hilary. Thank you. Fantastic. Warmth. Exciting. Yeah, there is this sort of an excitement and anticipation. So you both connecting there with the real positive qualities of the color orange. And that is exactly what it is. It is about our willingness and our ability to truly enjoy life. So somebody who feels as if the joy has gone out of their life would be out of balance in this color. Somebody who feels the need to want to bring in like more fun, more lightness, more enlivening activities would be out of balance in this color. Similarly, if you establish that someone's out of balance, that's what they need, is that they need that warmth, that excitement, that time with friends, those social engagements, being out there, interacting with people, and not being afraid of it, because there's a lot of fear that gets carried in this color. So if orange is chosen as a challenge, in its challenging aspects, what you may find is an individual who is stuck in a codependent relationship of some kind or another. Where the other person, you've got the victim and the rescuer. So it would be a play all around rescuing somebody, somebody else maintaining the position of actually being the victim. Or the person in orange themselves is actually the victim and they are looking for somebody to rescue them from a situation that they find themselves in. So it could be they're in a job that they dislike, they're in a relationship that they can't get out of, feeling unsupported, always there to support others but not feeling supported themselves. And very, very often this would manifest in lower back problems. And if you go back to where the chakra chart is, you will see that that area actually governs the lower aspects of the spine down to the sacrum. So this whole area, including that part of the spine, is actually affected by imbalances in this area. So somebody who has high, sort of a lot of lower back pain would feel unsupported. And it is, from my perspective, from what I actually see, especially in the UK, because of the general weather and the lack of this color, because we find a lot of grey skies, a lot of rain, not enough sunshine. You have a look at some of the ailments that plague people in the UK. And very, very often, lower back problems are actually one of the key ailments. And I just have to tell you this little story because it's just beautiful. You know, different countries and different cultures would experience things differently as well, depending on how their environments and cultures are colored. But when I was in South Africa and I was actually getting ready to make my initial move to the UK, it was quite funny because the guys who were helping to pack my little container, and I didn't have a lot of stuff, and they were dark-skinned laborers, if you like, that worked for the shipping company. But we were chatting as they were actually packing the box, and they said to me, "Ma'am, you've just got to make sure if you've got books in boxes that you put them in small boxes. You can't put books in large boxes because then they'll be too heavy. And over on the other side in England, they've all got bad backs. They won't pick them up." And that to me was just so funny. They say, "Oh no, we hear it all the time." So we always say to our clients, and when we're packing boxes, make sure that you don't pack too much heavy stuff in a box, otherwise they'll refuse to pick it up because of this bad back syndrome. And it really is, you know, they kind of talk about being booked off work with a bad back. So it is really interesting because at a deeper level, while that was really humorous, I found at the time, but at a deeper level, we do find this actually playing out in society, that even while there is a welfare state and what have you, people do not feel generally supported. They feel patronized, but they don't feel supported by the culture, if you like, in the UK, and that whole sense of community and sense of family which is being eroded. So, yes, I would suggest that this is one of the colors that could be used for lower back problems, depending on exactly where it is. You could also use coral for that, or gold. Gold is another color that you could actually use for this. So that's one of the challenges. Somebody who is expressing the positive attributes of this would actually be experiencing a strong sense of independence. So they don't need to feel supported by anybody or by anything else. So they're feeling a lot of joy. They feel optimistic. So on the challenging side, somebody who is lacking in this, where that chakra may be closed or confined, would actually be feeling sort of dampened, uh, negative about circumstances and situation, feeling as if they don't have power, quite literally, and not able to get them out of the situation. Now, one of the things about orange as well, and I think I may have mentioned this in the first session, is that orange is a buffer for shock or trauma. Whenever there has been a shock or trauma in that person's life, orange is a color that is needed always to help to ease and buffer the emotional shock, because there is a huge impact to the emotional body, and it will always impact through this color. Um, yeah, that's lovely, Rose. Thank you. Since the first session, she says, I can relate to both aspects of the color at different times, mostly the positive, and helped me in the last few weeks. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. You know, I mean, I can honestly relate to how I've worked with this color sort of on and off during the years, sort of as we work through different layers of whatever issues we may be dealing with. So we'll peel off one layer, that good old onion, you know, and then we start working through the spectrum of color in a different way as we start peeling off the next layer. So there are layers and layers. And the thing is that if we are carrying the patterns of shock and trauma from previous lives, which probably many of us are in the soul matrix, they will manifest at the physical level, through the physical body in this lifetime. So orange is a beautifully comforting color. And when I actually do body work, very often what I will do is I will, before I start anything else or work with any of the other colors, I will first blanket the person and seal their energy fields with orange for all of the previous shocks or traumas that they may have encountered. Um, so it's a wonderful color for that. So again, it does indicate potentially abusive situations, extensive emotional manipulation. Yeah, beautiful color to actually use, and you will find that information on page 21 in your workbook. Some of the other physical issues which you may find that would point to the need for this color, if somebody has bladder problems, for instance, so you look physically at the chakra chart and you can see that this governs the area of the bladder. So if they have bladder problems, in other words, i.e. being pissed off, you can hear it in the language that people use, that this is a perfect color. This is an imbalance in this particular color area or in this particular frequency that they will need. Bladder, bowel problems, elimination. So it's holding on to grudges as well. It's that holding on to things, being unable to fully let joy and all of the new experiences into their lives because they're holding on to old stuff and they won't let it go. Holding on to old hurts, holding on to old shocks or traumas, just reliving those stories over and over and over. If you've got somebody who does that, the likelihood is that they're going to need orange in their lives to help to release them to re-experience joy and life in a more uplifting way. So that's just, again, it's scratching the surface. We can't do all of it now, but it's, you will come to understand this as you work more with these colors. So is that okay with you guys? We're going to do one more color for this session, and then we're going to take a break before we go into the third webcast, and where we're going to do some decoding of the clowns, um, which is a fabulous exercise. Okay, here's a question, and I'd just like to answer this on the recording as well. Rose has just asked, I have a client who has psoriasis, but a real problem with her mom, so would orange help? What I would suggest is psoriasis is a color that is associated with yellow, a yellow, violet, or a blue imbalance. So what you may find you could actually do is, first of all, seal their energy field with orange, because it could actually be that they're consistently leaking energy. Seal their energy field with the orange and then go into a regime of yellow and blue, because whatever the issues are with her mom, it could be boundary related and aspects of the client themselves standing firmly within their own power. So start off with orange, work with the letting go, and then go into the yellow and blue. Okay, so it's almost like you establish a bit of a color prescription for individuals, but it would need a little bit of further exploration to establish exactly what those issues are. But certainly psoriasis is a skin problem. So here we go with the last color that we're going to work with for the moment. So again, I'd like you to just close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And let go of any thoughts, analysis, and even with your eyes closed, allow yourself to feel the energy that's emanating from the color on the screen. Just be in that space of pureness, of knowingness, of connection. And when you're ready, take a deep breath in, open your eyes, and feel the essence of that color and make a note of your keywords. Okay. Oh, lovely. Yeah. Freshness, vitality, sunshine, zingy, cleansing like lemon juice. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very light, uplifting. I like that word, zingy. And it is, it's like the freshness of lemons. You can almost feel your mouth beginning to water even looking at that color. It's like that, you know, the brightness of a summer day. Sunflowers is something that I actually think about. What else? So the other words that we've got: lightness, clear, soothing, soft, joyful, alive. Lemons. Yeah. Yeah, you can feel your mouth watering where you can. Oh, I'd love some lemon water now. And especially now, I think we're having a really profound reaction to this color because we haven't seen the sun again for a couple of days. Sun is actually gone, and this is one of the colors that we need a lot more of in winter. So be aware of that over the coming months, that this is one of the colors you can bring into your environment and meditate on it, breathe it in, work with it to help to restore balance. But it is a very, very alive, beautiful color, and it certainly is soothing depending on what it is that you are wanting to soothe. It's also very, very uplifting. It's a color for an antidote for depression. Yellow and orange, both colors that are antidotes for depression. So you're beginning to understand just how intuitive your connection with color actually is. You know, this really is, once we take the time to sit down and allow ourselves to focus on that, we find out how much we already know. And all we are doing is we're learning to language it in a more expansive way through the work that we're actually doing here today. So what you will find is the information about yellow on page 23 in your workbook. It's fantabby-doos. I love that. Sorry for those joining in late. There's a comment in the chat room which just says it's fantabby-doos. It's just wonderful. It's such fun. Okay, so somebody chooses this color in a challenging position. You would more than likely find out or ask them questions around the levels of stress that they are experiencing in their life. Because if somebody is very stressed, either with their work or with their relationship or whatever it is, things that may need to be done with their mother, with whatever it may be, it means that there is not enough vitality, freshness, lightness. They're stressed and uptight. Okay, so they are almost more within themselves. But more than that, stress puts a pressure on the organs that are actually governed by this particular color and this chakra in the chakra system. So you find huge pressure on the kidneys, for instance, because stress produces toxins in the body. The liver and the liver and the kidneys actually need to clear out those toxins, and if our body goes into toxic overload through consistent stress, um, we start throwing those toxins out through the skin, which is the largest elimination organ. And the skin is where we would find things like eczema being manifest. So this is one of the physical conditions that will show you that there is an imbalance in this particular color, and where this is needed. So psoriasis, eczema, all of those skin conditions are as a consequence of toxins being thrown out through the skin, through the elimination organ, which is governed by this and by the associated organs. So some of the other things that you would find, that individual doesn't make any time for fun or joy in their life, and you can go through, some of the challenging aspects. One of the reasons why we very often experience continual stress is because one of the key words associated with imbalances of this area is also victimhood. We feel like victims. We are not able to say no. So our boundaries and our personal will is actually very weak. Our sense of identity about who we are, one of the issues around this color is identity. So our sense of identity about who we are is wrapped up in what other people think of us. So very often we get stressed because we are doing things, even though sometimes we may not even be consciously aware of it, but we are doing things because we would gain approval from somebody else. Okay, so I'm doing it because if I don't, I will feel guilty, which means I may experience somebody else's disapproval. By the way, guilt is a big, big emotion that's associated with on the negative, challenging aspect of orange. So yellow really is about being fearful of putting our boundaries in place and really establishing our own identity, where our identity is just so wrapped up in everything else, in our job, in what we do, and as a consequence of us not establishing healthy boundaries, we get stressed because those boundaries are constantly walked all over. So there is an aspect of that manipulation that comes in as a consequence of the yellow. But challenges, you would actually find as well that this person tends to be very, very sensitive in the solar plexus area, where they very often experience gut feelings about things. So I had a gut feeling about that, my stomach was telling me, but very often too fearful to act on it. Depends on what else is out of balance as well. Um, on the positive side, you actually have individuals who are fun-loving, vibrant. This is, this combined with orange is kind of like that happy, happy face in that is projected onto the world. And we all need people like that in our environment so that we don't take ourselves too seriously, because that's one of the challenges here as well, is that where this is out of balance, it could be because we're just taking ourselves way too seriously and we just need to lighten up. Lightness, clear, soothing, and the minute we lighten up, our whole emotional state is soothed. Okay. So physically, we've spoken about the skin, and useful exercise for somebody who is imbalanced or stressed as a consequence of this is their reliance on other people for validation and for identity. Get them to sit down and make a list of all of their positive achievements, because very often on the challenging side of this, people have a real recognition for themselves of what they have achieved in their life. So they tend to feel, sort of useless, that I haven't done anything significant or important. Therefore, I'm not a significant human being. I don't have that inner sense of significance or sense of self. So this is really about beginning to develop a strong sense of self. So very powerful color for that. It's also a very, very good, one of the challenging aspects of this, I must say, is about confusion. So it's very good for bringing clarity mentally. So if somebody is studying, or if trying to retain information, this is great for memory retention. If you're studying for exams or you're just trying to remember something, a yellow light bulb or a yellow cloth over a lamp would bring that yellow color into the room. It's great for students to help them to retain information of the level of mental clarity that it actually brings into your energy field. So again, you can see how each of the colors works at many, many different levels. So challenging, this could represent confusion, and in its positive, harmonious aspect, it represents clarity and lightness. So confusion, clarity, victimhood, identity, self-identity, self-worth. It's the color of confidence. And when we don't have confidence in ourselves, we beat ourselves up. And this gives rise to a constant inner stress because we don't feel good enough. So this huge work, if you like, if this is one of the colors, about establishing a very powerful positive sense of identity. Okay, so self-doubt, fears and confusion, stressful situations, deprived of recognition. Those are some of the challenges that you would find and what you could discuss with people. Um, yeah, this could be too strong. There's another comment in the chat room from Rose. This is often used in babies' rooms before they are born as a neutral gender color. So would it be too strong? I would actually say that yellow would be too strong for babies because it does have a very powerful effect on the digestive system, on the stomach. I think one of the reasons why they tend to use, or when they do tend to use this, they tend to go more for the lemon and sort of add more light to it so that it's not as harsh or bright. But certainly the best colors for babies are your whites. Coral is a beautiful color. Your pinks, obviously, pale green is probably a kinder color than yellow because green is a combination of the two primaries, yellow and blue. So you actually have some yellow in there, but it is a much more balanced color and nurturing color than yellow is. I would say that yellow is way too harsh to actually use for babies. Be very careful about it. I mean, don't eliminate it completely because you can use yellow accents, but as a color on its own, it would be too strong and powerful for them. Because as babies, their identity is wrapped up with their mum. And that's exactly the way that it needs to be because they are totally dependent on their mom for all of their needs and nourishment, etc. So you want colors that are going to support that feeling of safety, of nourishment, of security. So this almost comes about sort of slightly later on when they start developing a separate identity. So yeah, it's a very, very powerful information on how we can work with color in a very insightful way. Okay, so that's it for this week because there's a lot of energy gets used in that process of connecting with color. So the homework for week 2, which I've sent you on a separate email as well, is to use the Crystal Rainbows meditation, which will be provided for you at least 3 to 4 times during the week and notice which of the colors you actually have the greatest response to, where in your body you feel it, what happens emotionally. Tune into this color separately and allow your higher self to provide you with your own information as we've done today because it means that you know what that color means for you, how it's feeding you, nourishing you, what do you need to be aware of, what can you do. And then the next exercise is to take an A4 sheet blank paper and draw a clown on it. Use whatever colors you wish and simply allow your intuitive self to play. I will provide you details with the interpreting your clown drawing in week 3. So that's going to come in the next session. Um, and that's basically it for this week, folks. It's about an hour and 20 minutes, going on for 25 minutes there. So I look forward to connecting with you so that we can actually continue in the next session or the third teleclass. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to connecting with you for the next one. I'm going to stop the recording as a formal completion.